Kevin for Pixavert.com. In this video, what I want to look at is a technique for retouching. I'm not going to be looking at retouching per se, just a particular technique that you can use when retouching. And this is the frequency separation technique. So what I'm going to do first of all is to transform the image from, it's currently an 8-bit image, I'm going to transform it to a 16-bit image, which is the best mode to do this kind of work in. Now you can work in 8-bit mode. In a separate video I'm going to have the settings that you're going to need to work in 8-bit mode. Right, so the first thing is, once we're in 16-bit mode, we need to create 3 copies of our original image. I'm going to use Control or Command J on the keyboard to create these copies. The first copy in the middle, the one in the middle, I'm going to call low frequency, and the top layer I'm going to call high frequency. And what I want to do is to go to the low frequency layer. I'm going to switch off the high frequency one, and on the low frequency layer I'm going to choose filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Now the blur setting that you use for your image will depend entirely on your image. So in this image I'm going to choose 10, and the reason why is if I switch off the preview, we can see a few blemishes on the face, and all those blemishes disappear once we get to 10 pixels. And the reason that's important will become obvious a bit later on. I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to turn on the high frequency layer, and with that activated I'm going to go to Image, Apply Image, and these are the settings that you need for a 16-bit image. First of all, we're going to choose the layer as the low frequency layer. We're going to go to blending and we're going to choose add. The scale is going to be 2, and we're going to choose invert. Everything else, preserve transparency, mask, has to be kept off. Offset is going to be kept at 0, opacity at 100%. So basically we choose the low frequency layer, blending mode of add, and a scale of 2. You will need different settings if you're working in 8-bit mode. I'm going to hit OK, and what we've got is a kind of layer that looks like a high pass filter layer. Instead of putting this on overlay as we would with a high pass filter, we're going to put it on linear light. And what that should do is to give us an image made up of the high frequency layer and the low frequency layer that looks remarkably similar to our original image. And in fact, if I turn them all on and then just turn on the original by Alt or Option clicking on the eye for the original, you'll see that there is practically no difference. So we've got 2 copies of the same image, one consisting of 1 layer and another copy of the image consisting of 2 layers. And the trick here is to work mainly on the high frequency layer. So let's get going with that. First of all, I'm going to choose the healing brush tool, and wherever I've got a blemish, working on the high frequency layer, I'm going to choose current layer for the sample. I'm going to work non-aligned, but you can work with aligned if you want. And I'm on normal mode with the source as sampled. Now, first of all, I'm going to sample. I'm just going to reduce the size of the brush, and I'm going to sample an area and basically cover the blemish. So this is basically painting. And what you need to be careful of is that you're selecting an area which has got the correct texture for the area that you want to replace. So we can move over here. Just get rid of these blemishes over there. It's as simple as using the healing brush tool in any other situation. The important thing to remember is that you're working on the high frequency layer with the sample set to current layer. I'm not working on a new layer. This editing has to be destructive. There's no way of getting around that. Now, as you can see, we've made a lot of progress. We could make further progress if I wanted to. What I want to demonstrate, however, is the power of this technique. If I wanted, for instance, to smooth out all of the face, I could simply change the size of my brush, sample an area, and just paint over the area. Now, because we've got the contour information held in one separate layer, we can actually go a little bit, we can get a bit demented and just change huge areas of the face. The more we do this, the more likely we're going to get a plasticky looking face, but it's up to you. It's your judgment as to how far you go with this kind of work. Now, before I go, I wanted to show you one other thing. I've redone the entire thing in two different ways. I've redone it using Gaussian blur and also using surface blur. Generally, you get very good results, as you can see there, using either technique. However, there was one tiny advantage for surface blur, and I wanted to demonstrate that. With the surface blur, if I go to an edge here, and if I start working at the edge, we can get right up close to the edge, and we don't get any real negative effects by working close to the edge. However, when I'm using Gaussian blur, when we get close to the edge, if I sample there, for instance, and then paint there, we can lose edges, and this is because Gaussian blur doesn't respect edges in the way that surface blur does. So that's one thing to take into consideration when you're considering how to go about this. Now, if you're working in 16-bit mode, as I am, and you want to go back to working in 8-bit mode, it's important that you flatten the image before going back to work in 8-bit mode. So what you might do is to go to Image, Duplicate, create another copy of the image, then to Layer, Flatten Image, and once the image is flattened, then you can change the mode. And what that does is that all the goodness, all the benefits of using 16-bit mode are then imprinted into the pixels when you go back down to 8-bit mode. So that's, I hope, been very helpful. Thank you for watching. Till next time, take care. Bye. Audio confirmed. Video confirmed. Everything's hunky-dory. Right. Now,